If I were to ask you what video game has the best glass, I'd get a million different answers. Anyone I presented this question with has given me a completely different game, or a number of them as they begin racking their brain because this is not something that they've ever thought about before. Still, not one single person has the same answer as me, because I'm a special boy. I know this is a pressing topic that quite frankly I'm surprised is not being talked about by every single white man with a camera, a microphone, and a complex for thinking that people on the internet actually care about what I have to say. But allow me to hop onto your screens for just a little while to figure this out. But just to make sure you take me seriously, we're going to get professional. Because everyone knows a high visibility vest makes you authorized to do whatever it is you are doing. What is the best glass in video games? It's a good question, says me, the man proposing the question. Ah, thanks man, you're welcome. So here is what prompted me to think about this question at all. Look at these windows. These are the windows in Lightyear Frontier, an early access farming game set on an alien planet where you use mechs to establish agriculture and grow the presence of resource production on a new world. It's a brilliant game and one that deserves more attention across the board, but today we're looking past all that and looking through these windows instead. But as soon as these windows caught my eye, I couldn't help but think, has any video game done windows quite this well? Of course, it all comes down to graphical fidelity and art stylization, but I want to spend a little bit of time looking through some other examples in games that I could find and see just how digital glass compares. Also, I probably don't need to say it, but I will not be checking every single video game ever in the process of making this video. If a specific game comes to your mind when I ask about windows, glass, and all things transparent, and I don't mention it here, let me know. I want to see what examples are out there, and we'll happily continue the hunt for the best video game windows, because what this video really needs is a part 2, right? Okay, so first off, let's take a closer look at the source material, the windows in Lightyear Frontier. So there's actually 2 examples I want to talk about in Lightyear Frontier, so we'll walk it back for a second and look at the first. Standard windows for your home. These are simple glass windows that you can build once you've got the means to produce glass, and it's just a great way of giving your home some natural light while letting you look out on the gorgeous vistas of this planet. You know, like it's a window. It does what a window does. On closer inspection, however, you'll see that these windows actually have a slight texture to them, a kind of wobbly structure to the glass itself, rather than being entirely flat. This creates a bit of a warping effect while you look through the window, because while it's still entirely transparent and not frosted, these bends and curves will refract the light a little, and that is replicated stunningly in this game. I looked into this a little bit to see why it might be the case, because while it's a general stylization, these styles stem from somewhere, be it internationally, culturally, or just because of tech and methods available at the time of initial production. From what I can tell, this kind of glass seems to be reminiscent of glassmaking methods such as cylinder glass or general restoration glass. Many of these things, while now trends in of themselves, come from a much earlier time of creating glass when imperfections would be more common. This is how we ended up with things like crown glass, which if you're in the UK like me, you'll probably have seen a lot of these around pubs and older homes. So I can only assume that this is being used in Lightyear Frontier both as a means of replicating earlier, more amateur methods of producing this glass, while also keeping that intentional, cozy aesthetic that's in keeping with the game's style. Whether that's intentional or not, there's no way for us to know, but it has been depicted amazingly in this game, so I'm all for some more passion in video game glassmaking. The second type of glass I wanted to talk about in Lightyear Frontier was on the mechs themselves. When you're operating a mech in first person, your perspective will be shifted to the inside of the cockpit. From here, you can see out of the mech and do all of your farming and exploring and whatnot. However, in order for you to be able to see out of this cockpit, it has to be made of, say it with me, glass. The glass used on the mechs is more traditional, wherein traditional means perfected or referred to as float glass. It uses flat panes to keep visual obstruction to a minimum while operating the mech, and unlike the windows you're making for your new little home, we can assume these cockpits have been designed and manufactured off-world, where float glass is the standard method of production while using the metal parts of the mech's construction. Compared to the windows, this glass looks boring, but that's also why it's interesting. The contrast in these two styles is distinct and matches up with the methods and tech used to actually create them. Pre-perfected mechanical engineering versus on-planet resource refinement. Two very different styles, but also two very different methods, and the results are pretty accurate to what you might end up with in real life when making glass with established tech versus doing so from scratch. Of course, I'm not an expert in any form of glass making, so I could be missing the mark by miles. I only have the internet at my disposal, as any of us do, but if you happen to be a glass maker or have a degree in glass, then please feel free to share information with the glass and prove me wrong. We love to learn. Now before we move on, there's one more thing I want to point out with the glass in Lightyear Frontier, and that is the rain. This is quite simple, but the rain just looks so good when it's hitting the glass, and the droplets slowly run down the surface. On the windows in your house, it beautifully adds to the cozy feel and the wavy patterns of the glass, letting you longingly look out across the fields as you dream of better days. On your mech, it makes you feel warm and safe from the environment outside, keeping you dry as the droplets create an ambience for you to relax, sleep, or study to. How I get any farming done in this game is beyond me. But now let's take a look at a few more games to see if we can find a better example of video game glass, or at least different, interesting examples. I'll say it right off the bat, I think Lightyear Frontier takes the crown here. But I do want to explore what other games do glass well, and I would love to hear some other opinions on this very specific, very niche thing in games. Right, let's run through the following games, except I don't have enough room to run because the green screen is barely even big enough to fit me. So, it's a good thing I'm not claustrophobic. This is Call of Duty Black Ops 6. I haven't touched a Call of Duty game since, like, Advanced Warfare, so don't ask me anything about this series outside of this exact scenario here. If there is a late game mission called Glass of Duty, let me know, but I'm unaware of anything like that right now. I can't keep up with the series that's put out a game every year for the last 20 years. Honestly, like the last year we had when Call of Duty didn't have a game release, I was 7 years old. Welcome to this old mansion. We're here to look at things. Not this mold. This is pretty bad, but this is not a video on the best/worst video game mold. So we'll leave this alone for now. No, I'm here to look at the glass, specifically these windows here. I wanted to check Call of Duty because I know that these are graphically modern games, and so should be a strong example of how things can be done. These windows are shit. In all honesty, they're not terrible. The window itself looks fine, while the texture isn't great, but I don't think they expected anyone to get up close and personal with these very specific little bits. They're just for looking through from afar and for lighting. And to be fair, they do all of that incredibly well. There's a slight bit of distortion to the glass itself, not as much as Lightyear Frontier, and this causes a little bit of visual distortion as a result. So, cool. There's nothing really notable about these windows otherwise. Marshall's glasses are good though, like ridiculously good. It's interesting to see the divided efforts between a character's glasses and the windows in the home base. Okay, but we don't have to stop there. Call of Duty has a lot of destruction, right? So surely that should mean we can experiment with the glass outside of the safe house and have some impressive results. If this opening scene where a car flips and the glass smashes is anything to go by, we're in for a treat. These windows are shit. Yes, I know in the grand scale of the game this doesn't really matter, but I was hoping to see these windows shatter. But just nothing. Shooting them, hitting them, you'd get bullet holes, but they won't take any damage beyond that. Maybe they're just really armored, shatterproof, military grade glass. Perhaps, but then I moved on to the next mission. Yeah, I'm pretty confident that this car does not have military grade armored glass, so it's the same again, just generic bullet hole damage, but no further shattering or fractures or anything like that. Interestingly, if you shoot through the vehicle, you'll see an additional bullet hole on the parallel windows, which is a cool detail. However, I can't hide my disappointment. I also wanted to test it out on these shop windows and street lights around the start of the level, and once again, these store windows, despite having pretty detailed displays, could not be shattered or hit, only bullet holes, once again. Like, the engine for the game can only really do bullet object plus glass material equals bullet hole texture and calls it a day. With the street lamps, I just got nothing. I didn't realize the council for this town had introduced bulletproof street lighting. That's my bad. I think I could even hear one of the bullets bounce off the glass on the lamp, which is just... Okay, moving on. Car windows got me thinking about another game. Here we go. If you remember, all the way back in 2014, over a decade ago, we got a gameplay demo for a promising Ubisoft title. Back when Ubisoft was capable of being promising. That game was The Division. If you do remember it, then you'll probably remember how graphically impressive it was for the time. You'll also probably then remember how this game was victim to one of Ubisoft's infamous downgrades when the release finally came around. However, I wanted to go back and evaluate this glass specifically, both in the E3 demo and in the actual game. I always remember the car windows being something people talked about from this gameplay demo, as the destruction was worthy of praise itself. Here's the gameplay demo. It's dramatically pretty even by today's standards, but it's here in the shootout at the police station, where we can see the full extent of car windows being destroyed by flying bullets. I mean, it wasn't exactly subtle that Ubisoft was showing off this feature quite heavily. Similar to Black Ops 6, there are bullet holes that fully travel through the windows, but these are more dynamic, actually causing larger shattering and chunks of glass to fall out based on the arrangement of the bullet holes themselves. But the gameplay demo was one thing. Let's have a look at the actual game. This is the PS4 version of the game running on a PS5, so we're not getting dramatic with any PC specs here. Honestly, the game still holds up and looks pretty great in general, which was a nice surprise to see. Immediately, we can see that the glass destruction holds up pretty well too, and is true to what was shown in the gameplay demo. The car windows break up in dynamic ways, with bullet holes rarely looking the same. Shards will break off and chunks of glass will fall depending on the structural integrity of the glass around it. The windshields don't seem to have that effect as they were shown in the gameplay demo. Here they are damaged by bullets and you can see the glass further shattering around the damage, but no missing chunks or further destruction. Same for the rear windows too. Hitting the glass also does nothing, just for note. It's purely bullets. Then I wanted to look at some store windows in the same way that we did for Black Ops 6. Shooting windows on buildings seemed to be a little inconsistent. Some would take damage in the same way as the car door windows, with chunks of glass failing to stay in place after too much destruction. However, some other glass surfaces would just take bullet holes while remaining as is, much like the windshields. I also found some bits where the glass would just fall straight down through whatever is below it, no clipping or shattering or anything, and that looked kind of funny. Hitting the windows also does nothing for destruction, despite there being a weird glass shards particle effect to portraying smashing of the glass. All in all, the glass here in The Division is pretty good, if inconsistent, but it does mostly hold up to what was shown in the original gameplay reveal. I mean, when a Ubisoft game from 2016 is doing a better job of some gun destruction than the latest Call of Duty games, well, that is the world we live in. But once again, car windows have me thinking about another game. There's lots of cars today. I don't know. Next stop, Forza Horizon 5. This is a game with good graphics and lots of cars. Cars have lots of glass, therefore lots of glass with good graphics, right? Makes sense to me. So let's take a look at... Okay, new video. How far can the camera zoom out in Forza? First off, we're going to inspect the car closely, with all of the graphics settings set to high. I know I didn't do The Division on PC and give it the best graphics possible, but Ubisoft hasn't done right by me in a while, so tough break. On first inspection, the reflections. It's not great. I mean, it's fine, and when you're speeding around the map, you're not going to notice any lack in quality there, but it's still not great. Bearing in mind this is still max quality and ray tracing and all that good stuff. Similarly, the mirrors suffer the same fate. They're still technically glass, so I will be scrutinizing them all the same. This is more of a functional thing than a visual feature, but even then, the quality is not great and the draw distance is terrible. I understand the limitations, but looking in the mirrors is a pretty key part of driving, so I would like to think one of the biggest driving games out there would do it well. Yeah, this does the job, but you're not doing that well, Forza. Now I do want to take a look at the destruction. This game is by no means a destruction game, so I'm not expecting beam and G levels of crumbling and tumbling, but the glass does in fact shatter and crack. A little bit, in a way. So, like most things in Forza, it's not designed to be looked at closely, but unfortunately, that's exactly what I'm doing. Don't love it. Okay, before I move on, having not said a single good thing about Forza yet, I do want to point out something that I found incredibly interesting. When it's raining in the game, you'll see droplets on the car windows. From the outside, this looks super cool and detailed. Getting closer, the droplets lose some of that fidelity, but you do actually see some reflections in each individual droplet, which I think is just wild. From the inside of the car, however, you'll see the drops of rain streaking down the windshield as you drive around. Again, it's super detailed and they'll actually change direction based on your movement. If the car is still, they'll roll straight down. If you're moving, they'll be pushed back by the wind and air resistance. But that's not the most interesting part. If we use photo mode to stop and take a little trip outside of the car here, you'll see a lot less droplets than what we saw from the inside. Head back inside, and yep, they're still there. But from the outside, they just don't exist. It's like the droplets are this interior effect, designed to replicate the raindrops, but they're not actually on the outside of the car or anything like that. It's placing this reactively animated asset on the inside of the car when you're in first person, designed to look like it's on the outside of the glass. This seems so strange to me when the glass itself is transparent, like we can see through it both ways, so we know we can see through it perfectly fine. But then this rain, these droplets, they're only visible from the inside of the glass, and outside, you wouldn't even know it was raining, apart from all the rain. Like, get as close as you want. They're not there. They do not exist. Isn't that cool? Anyway, let's move on to some more glass. We're on a tight schedule. Glass in Teardown. Let's take a good, close look at all of these windows, and you know what they say. If you want to see a lot of glass, go to a house of someone who has way too much money that thinks made in the Sims core is an architecturally good style. So I want to look at these giant panes of glass here on this very modern house. With doors like this, a very tall person must live here. I can only assume anyway. Teardown is a game all about destruction and gives you the tools to do so. I also have some mods just to make it more interesting. It's also a game that uses voxel graphics, which is basically where you have tiny little cubes make up the environments. Think Minecraft, but shrunk down. Pixels you can reach out and grab. To get started, I hit the glass with a hammer. Yep, sure, that broke. Throwing things at the glass also achieves the same result. Throwing the chunks of glass itself also breaks it apart, so that's a gold star from me. Is this realistic? I don't know. Probably not, but it's fun. Next up, guns. Yep, those are bullet holes, and the glass breaks apart in pieces. And that's one more on the list of games that do something better than Call of Duty. It's a long list. What's fun is you can actually shoot the structural parts holding these things up, causing the whole pane to fall. Then you can just have fun breaking things this way too. Time for explosives. Yeah, I mean, this is all doing the same thing, but on a grander scale, and I think you get the idea. I'm gonna keep doing it though. Look, we need to be really thorough here, otherwise it wouldn't be a fair test. What? I said thorough. Okay, what about a meteor? I need to confirm, but I'm pretty sure the glass did in fact break. Okay, so as procedure now states, we shall be cleaning up the scene with a mega gun. Mega gun? More meteors, for good measure, I think. Right, inspection done. I think. It's empty. There are going to be plenty of examples of exceptional glass in video games, whether they be visually impressive, ahead of the times, great for reflections, destructions, etc. Like this cracked scope in Sea of Thieves, where the crack is actually the crosshair. Pretty cool. Not worthy of a whole scripted section of the video, but there you go. Similarly, the glass in Red Dead Redemption 2, one of the most detailed games ever created, was actually just kind of underwhelming, with several instances of unbreakable glass that would just have bullet hole textures, while other glass would shatter brilliantly. I urge you to let me know what you think of when I ask what is the best video game glass. Like, if you have something come to your mind as soon as I ask that question, then that's the kind of thing I want to know. You've thought of something you noticed and remembered that should be unnoticeable and forgettable. Like, it's glass. I've only looked at a few examples here that I thought might prove interesting, promising, or just have a fun little quirk to them. All because I was impressed by Lightyear Frontier's windows. While I don't think we'll ever have a definitive answer as to the best, I like doing this exact thing because it gives you the chance to look at something you might never think about or never stop to actually look at. And in a world that is so hateful and negative and so very tiring, it's nice to just slow down and just appreciate something so minuscule and mundane about the video games we love. So, thank you for watching, and if you are still watching, I am very sorry that you sat through all of this. I can only imagine that this video is going to end up quite long for no good reason. If you are still watching, go comment something like, "Wow, I can't believe the ending to this video. It's so cool and so amazing. Wow, watch the whole thing to unlock the secrets of glass," or something. A call to action? Yes, but also it might confuse some people. So, that would be funny. One more meteor for the road. Cool.